Hey guys, it's Misha. So today I want to talk about Hurricane Helene. As you probably have seen already, as the hurricane made its way throughout parts of the country, people have been left without power, without water, homes have been completely destroyed, entire neighborhoods have been wiped out, and over 220 lives have already been lost.
Megan lost her 7-year-old son, Micah.
And I was terrified, but in that moment, all I thought about was being a mom and keeping my son safe. In his last moments, he wasn't screaming for me. He was screaming, Jesus, Jesus, save me. Jesus, I hear you. Jesus, I'm calling upon you. And his wildest dreams and everything that he wanted to be was a superhero. And that was his goal in life. And instead, he's my hero. I couldn't have asked for a better son. And he was so happy up until the very end.
And there have been many reports that FEMA has not been as present as expected on the front lines helping those in need. Instead, many communities that have been affected are relying on Starlink, for example, or private helicopters to bring aid and to rescue people.
A lot of the communications, the cellular networks, have been damaged, leaving thousands without a means of communicating with each other, which is why we understand over 600 people are still unaccounted for. They simply can't make contact. Elon Musk is coming to the rescue, sending 30 of his Starlinks, which essentially use orbiting satellites instead of ground-based networks, to give these people broadband connection. Donald Trump alerted me to additional people who need Starlink internet in North Carolina. We are sending them terminals right away.
I also want to talk about the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, because he was letting us know that FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is tremendously prepared. He's singing a bit of a different tune now, but let's take a look at this first.
FEMA is tremendously prepared. This is what we do. This is what they do. And the key here, Rebecca, is also to make sure that the communities who are potentially impacted are prepared as well. They have exercised these muscles, regrettably, year after year as the impacts of climate change have been more and more evident.
And turns out that Mayorkas told reporters that FEMA does not have the funds to see Americans through the rest of this Atlantic hurricane season, after they spent more than $1.4 billion since the fall of 2022 to address the migrant crisis. And you may be thinking, oh, they're worried about all of the people coming into the country illegally, right? No, they're offering them free housing. That's where the funds are going. Fantastic. While our own people struggle to survive. That makes a lot of sense.
We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
This all comes as the Biden-Harris administration spent over $1 billion from a FEMA program on services for migrants.
So while families in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and other disaster-affected areas are struggling to survive, FEMA does not have the funds because it was more important to prioritize people who are here illegally. We also somehow have no problem spending billions of dollars on illegal immigrants, sending that money overseas, actual Americans suffering unimaginable loss. We can hand them a whole $750 in aid. $750. Here's Kamala Harris.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met.
Now, call me crazy, but I think that FEMA's budget should be reserved for hardworking, tax-paying citizens who need it most. But for some reason, under the Biden-Harris administration, right, everything is completely backwards. They are leaving American citizens in crisis while catering to everyone else. This isn't just mismanagement, okay? This is a complete betrayal of the American people. The government fails those who need them most, leaves Americans behind, and then prioritizes others. Speaking of priorities, when we see these kinds of disasters, we have to ask ourselves, what are our priorities? I think it's very important to spread awareness about this issue because Americans are suffering and the government has a responsibility to put their needs first. And that is not what's happening. Thankfully, there are people who are donating and helping out in any way they can, and that has been very heartwarming to see. However, it is still such a disgrace to see the money, to see the resources that should be going to Americans in need go to people who are here illegally or to completely different countries. It's insane. I understand understand you want to help those abroad. I understand you want to help the illegal immigrants here, but you should not be prioritizing that when you have your own people suffering. I think that despite FEMA's failures, it's been incredible to see ordinary Americans step up and help out one another. And then we see Starlink, for example, people using private resources, helicopters coming down to reach others, and then people donating supplies.
Private helicopter companies stepping in to deliver much needed aid, including food, water, fuel, and over 100 donated Starlink satellite units. In Asheville, the North Carolina National Guard working nonstop to deliver supplies to residents.
We've had 37 helicopters today, volunteers. We've had people from Texas to Maine, all the way across the East Coast, just show up and like, how do we help?
Offering shelter, communities coming together. So that has been, like I said, heartwarming to see that when the government falls short, Americans can sometimes at least still rely on each other.
All three yelled for help. 2 blocks down the street, surfer Marty Thomas heard the screams. He threw his surfboard out the window and started paddling towards the sound. This went on for hours. He saved about a dozen people and their pets.
But the point is that those people should not have to do this alone. This all could have been handled differently in a way that we actually prioritize Americans in need. And that's all for today's video. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.